Today is part 2 of the kitchen renovation. First things first, we're going to be tackling this glossy reflective mirror situation that we have going on our ceilings. When the house was originally built, they painted all of the ceilings in a glossy finish, and it has just been driving us crazy ever since. Cannot wait to paint these on the one hand. On the other hand, I don't want to paint these, but you know, we're going to tackle it today. We also, when we moved the wall around and then moved some lighting around, we have some patches. So we've got some that's patched, some that's glossy, and some food. So we're just gonna paint right over all of that. Once we get the ceilings kind of in a better situation, then I'm gonna crown the cabinets. So no, we're not just gonna leave this kind of like awkward gap at the top. It's not big enough to put anything up there. It's not big enough to, or it's too big to not put anything up there. Basically it's just gonna be a dust collector, but no, we're gonna cap this, close the little thing up, take them to the ceiling, and then put crown molding on them. And then once we have that all finished up, we're finally going to add the hardware. I don't know if you have ever tried to open a soft close drawer with no hardware on it, but it's going to be nice to get some hardware on these, make it a lot easier to actually use the cabinets. I'm not as worried about getting a nice line in this area because we're going to come back and paint this wall still. It's a lot easier to edge the wall than it is to edge the ceiling. So just kind of slapping it on in the corner, make sure the ceiling is all the way painted, and then we'll come back and we'll make it look nice later once we get to this wall. Alright, all my best tips for painting ceilings. Number 1, don't have to paint your ceilings. Number 2, see rule number 1. No, it's not that bad. It's totally doable. We did all the ceilings in our last house. We're doing all the ceilings in this house, slowly, one by one. Tell you, painting the ceilings is a lot easier than scraping popcorn. So I'd take this over that any day. But it does get to be quite intense on your shoulders and your neck. A couple of things that makes it a little bit easier, I would recommend getting an extra wide roller. The standard size is usually a 9-inch one. I would do a 12 or 18. This is an 18-inch roller, and it makes a huge difference. You can cover a lot more ground more quickly. Second thing, one of these handy paint pails. A couple different companies make these. They all work pretty much the same. I do really like this one because of the size. It's a little bit smaller, but it makes it easier to carry the paint around when you're edging and cutting in around the tops of the ceiling. You also want a good brush for doing that. I have a few that I really like. I'll throw links for a couple of them down in the description of various ones that I've used that I've been happy with. And then, last but not least, your paint. You want a good ceiling paint. I've tried a couple different kinds, going with the Sherwin-Williams matte flat. This is by far my favorite one. Every time that I've used it, I've been happy with it.
You're doing a good job, Mom.
Thanks, Ava. I'm almost done. Then we can hang out for a little bit, okay? Love you. We're going to take the painting into the staircase too, but I'm going to let Joseph take over for this part because I don't trust myself up that high on a ladder over stairs right now. How's it going, hon?
It's shaky.
It's looking good
I'm
though.
shaky.
It looks good. Look at this difference in the ceilings. This side has not been painted yet. This is the original paint. This is the kitchen, what I just painted. So you can see how glossy this is over here, and then how nice and flat it is over here. So much softer. I just realized that I totally forgot to show you guys the new countertops before we jump right into this video. So they were installed a couple weeks ago. We did a Calcutta gold quartz for the island, and then we did black mist honed granite for all of the perimeter cabinets. And we also did go in and we added some more supports under the sink over here. I'm glad that we did that. It's a lot more sturdy and solid now. Don't have to worry about it at all. So once the countertops were in, we were able to install the final cabinet. Got a tall countertop cabinet over here on this side of the kitchen. And then one more change before we start building up the tops of the cabinets. We took this cabinet down actually, because that's gonna change very much how the crown goes around the top here. I know it seems like a waste, but because these were unfinished, ready to assemble cabinets, that cabinet was only like, I think it was $36. So very different than if we had gotten like a full set of cabinets. When I was looking at full sets of cabinets, the cabinet to go over the oven was like, I think the unfinished stock cabinet was $100, and anything that you were to order, like getting your cabinets planned out, even stock cabinets, but especially semi-custom, was like $200 or more. That would have been a lot more of a loss, but since we did unfinished, ready to assemble, it wasn't that expensive, and really the only loss is the amount of time I put into painting it and putting it together. So we'll use it somewhere else, but we took it down for now, and we are going to do the vented or ventless convertible range hood here instead. So now that we have all the cabinets in their final places, the layout is definitely established, we can take the cabinets up to the ceiling. So the first thing I'm doing here is attaching 2x2 blocks to the tops of the cabinets and the ceiling, and that's going to give us somewhere to attach the boards to close the space in. Attaching them to the top of the cabinet is pretty straightforward. I just line them up with the inside edges of the cabinet box and then screw them in from the top so you won't be able to see the screws. Now attaching them to the ceiling is the most challenging part, with making sure that they're lined up correctly. So I used my square and then a scrap block of wood that I cut to 90. I set those flush with the edges of the 2x2s on the tops of the cabinets, and then that gave me the perfect lineup for the 2x2s going into the ceiling. We were pretty relieved to have that first one in and see that it worked. Then we just worked our way around. You'll notice that we have a right angle attachment on the drill. There's only a 6-inch gap from the tops of the cabinets to the ceiling, so we couldn't fit the full drill in there, so we had to use that angle attachment.
Say hi to the camera, hun.
I'm gonna switch out my blade here and start cutting any of the crown molding so that we get nice clean cuts. So now I can attach my 1x6 trim boards here to the 2x2s, and that'll close in the tops of the cabinets. I'm actually going to start over here on this side so I can get everything to line up correctly. Once all the boards were up, I used a screwdriver to muddle the outside corners. It helps seal those corners and then close any small gaps that you might have. Trying out a new jig, the Craig Crown Pro, to help cut crown molding. I haven't used it before. I've done crown without any jigs before. And with crown molding, you want to cut it upside down, and then you have inside corners or outside corners. But you want to make sure that you're holding it at the same angle every time. So it's as if your saw was the ceiling, the saw tabletop is the ceiling, and the back of it is the wall. That's how you want to cut it to get all the angles right. So what I did in the past is I would just clamp a board like across here to make sure I was holding the crown at the same angle every time. And the jig does basically the same thing, you just hold it on here. I do like that the whole, when you get everything set, the whole back of your crown is flat against here, so it gives you a little bit more surface area that you can kind of like push into while you're making the cut. I'm not sure, the verdict's still kind of out. I'm going to keep using it for now, but there's like some pros and cons with it. Like if I'm cutting a really long piece, then I have to make sure that I have blocks set up so that it doesn't just hang off of this. I was having trouble with that when I had this full 8-foot piece going. It's working better now that it's a shorter piece, so some pros and cons, I guess. We'll keep rolling with it for now. It is helping. I like having this written right in front of me when I'm doing the right inside corner, outside corner, or the left inside corner, outside corner, because then I can see like exactly how I need to be set up, just because I don't do this that often. I did go ahead and cope these inside corners. I promise you it's worth the time. It makes for much better joints. This was my first cope that I've done in a while, so it's not perfect, but even if you have to caulk a cope joint, it won't crack once things start to shift and settle like a miter joint would, because there's material behind the caulk where those two crown pieces can just slide along each other. In my experience, it's 100% worth taking the time to practice and figure out how to do those. We added an extra little touch with these smaller trim details below the crown, and then set any nails that were still sitting proud of the trim, and then went through and wood filled all those nail holes and caulked all the joints. Alright, using the same paint that we used on the rest of the cabinets. I know you can't read it because I have paint all over the can, but it's the Sherwin-Williams Emerald Urethane Trim Enamel. I always have a hard time saying that. But I've used it on 2 kitchens now on the cabinets, used it on bathroom vanity, a couple islands, and some of the like kids' dressers that see a lot of wear and tear, and I've been super happy with this paint. It's self-leveling, so when you apply it, it levels out like any brush marks or roller marks or anything like that for a super smooth finish. It dries really hard and it is very durable. Figure out the paint can opener, so we'll just use a butter knife. Alright, so you probably noticed that we took off some of the crown pieces on the like outside edges of the cabinets here, and then the ones around the sink too. So we had put them on, and then I was looking at it and realized that it made a lot more sense to do the backsplash first, and then we can run the crown right up to it, because we're going to do a backsplash that goes up the whole wall. So we just took those off for now. We just pry them off carefully. We have them all numbered and everything so that we can save those. Once we do the backsplash, then we'll put those pieces of crown back on. But we didn't just forget about them, it is on purpose. Alright, we got paint on the ceiling, crown on the cabinets, and we're going to put some hardware on, make these drawers a little bit easier to use, and the doors too. I'm trying out the Craig cabinet hardware jig for the first time. My friend Cheryl from Woodshop Diaries, she said it's definitely worth the investment, especially if you're doing a whole kitchen. So I've been happy with all the other Craig jigs that I have. I did end up using the Crown Cut Pro, I think that's what it's called, for all the crown molding cuts. It was nice just to have it written right in front of you which direction everything needed to go. I've always been happy with the Craig stuff that I've used, so we're gonna give this a try. So since these are shaker fronts, we cut this shim to go behind the jig here, because otherwise there'd be a little bit of a gap behind the drill guide here, and I don't want the bit to wander at all. So now we can just clamp it down tight. Always makes me nervous drilling through a brand new cabinet. Okay, remember how I said I always get nervous drilling into new cabinets? Well, I did mess up on these ones. I forgot that I had gotten different width handles for the different size drawers. So I had some that were 6 inches for the wider drawers and then 4 inches for the little bit smaller ones. But I accidentally put the 6-inch handles on the bottom 2 drawers over here. It's still perfectly proportional and everything, so we decided that we're just gonna leave them. But I had to wait a couple days for the new 6-inch handles to come in. They just arrived, so we're just gonna get the rest of these put on and then we'll be good to go. Okay, verdict is in. This little jig is worth the investment, especially if you're doing a whole kitchen. It just made it so much quicker. You could set it, do all the drawers that were the same size, set it, do all the cabinet doors on one side, all the knobs on the other side. Just a lot faster than having to measure, mark, and drill everything individually. If you've got a big project coming up, it is worth it. Alright, that's going to wrap it up for part 2 of the kitchen renovation. We basically got the cabinets like 95% of the way done. We'll come in and finish them up the rest of the way once the backsplash is in, and we can put up the last few pieces of crown and then do the touch-up paint and all of that. But we're really excited about how it's all coming together so far. We've made tons of progress in here. That said, we have decided that we're actually going to put this project on hold for now. If you missed in my last video, I just got put on pretty heavy activity restrictions for the remainder of this pregnancy. So it's just not realistic for us to be able to keep working on it right now. I'm not sure when we're going to be able to jump back into it, but it'll be sometime after the twins arrive. We're really glad that we were able to get it to this point. Everything is perfectly functional, so we can use the kitchen and live in here very normally, and it'll be just fine. I'm bummed that we have to pause right now, but I'm excited for when we're able to jump back into it. We're going to be tackling the backsplash. We're going to be finishing up the crown. We've got some floating wood shelves that I want to put in, and we're going to be finishing out the kitchen island, putting the hood up. So I'm really excited for all that, and that'll be coming your way as soon as we can get back to it. Until then, I've got some fun fall stuff coming your way and things that are just gonna be a little bit easier that I can do more sitting down and just make sure that I'm adhering to the activity restrictions. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't want to miss any pieces of the kitchen renovation once we do get back to it. I will see you next time.